Welcome back to the David Brown 990 restoration. For those of you new, my name's Barry. Today's little video, well, can I start by saying a massive thank you to Angus Welding and Fabrication of Ashington, who has kindly donated nice big piece of plate steel for this video. Young man at Angus went in to see him to see he had a bit of 1/2 inch plate to make today's video with, and he gave us that, and there's enough there to make 2. So we're going to make 2, and you're asking, make 2 of what? I hear you say. These things. Remember these? Stabiliser brackets off the final drives. These bolt onto your final drives, your stabiliser brackets fit on here and come back to your linkage lift arms, don't they? And they stop the lift arms wobbling in and out, and they stop the equipment sliding from side to side as you're using it. But we had one of these, didn't we? Which is this one. And it's the wrong one, isn't it? I think Terry was telling me this is off an 880 because the pin is at the back, and when it's on the tractor you can quite clearly see it is the wrong one, because the pin, this pin, does not line up with this pin, which is the pin that sits underneath the diff and the carrier brackets that the lift arms sit on. They need to sit like that, and at the minute they're sitting like that as opposed to like that. So what you're going to do there, you're going to have a binding situation where when the lift arms lift, one side is going to become shorter than the other and is going to bind up. Something's going to suffer, something's going to bend, something's going to shear. We've got a couple of these spare. Okay, so the plan is today we're going to turn 2 of those down to be the same size and length as that, from there to there. So we'll salvage it out of that one. We will then, and I have just drawn on here quickly, and it might well change yet because it might just be quicker and easier to move that down to that edge and that edge. So you've got a square edge there. We'll see. But I just wanted to make sure I could get 2 out of there. The initial plan was just to make 1. But because I was given such a nice piece of steel that could get 2 brackets out of, we're going to make 2. We're also going to make the back plate slightly bigger. We're going to make it about 1/4 inch bigger all the way around to give us a little bit more material on the corners here. Because you see, there's not an awful lot, is there, left in here. So we're going to do that. We'll turn the pins, turn the boss, drill, fit the pin to the boss, and weld it onto the plate. Oh, and drill the holes. Easy, innit? Then we'll get set up in the lathe, get these turned down. First thing we want to do is knock this shoulder back here so it's the same level as this. Then we're going to turn this down to be the same diameter as that pin. 0.728, 0.73, close enough, isn't it? For what's going to happen to it, 0.73. Probably with a bit of wear on it. 0.73. Let's have a look here. 0.85. 1.219. So I say we're going to knock the shoulder down first to that diameter and then clean everything else up. So we've got in here an old SNMG tip. The back corner's already been defunct, and we're going to start and rough it off with this, and then we'll change to a new tip to put a finish on with. So let's crack on with this. 832. We'll get a cloth because that's warm. Okay, as you can see, my parting tool's slightly below centre. Don't really matter, does it? But there we go. Piece number 1. What do they say? Rinse, repeat. Let's get number 2 done. Right, 2 new pins made. Right, roughed out the backing plates, roughly to size and shape, tacked them together in a way, in a fashion. I I think my rods might be damp. The little rods just, I have a lot of bother with the little rods. I can weld nicely with the big rods, not with the little ones, whatever reason. So they're tacked together to act as one. We're going to do this once, it's a damn sight easier. I've already drilled a 6.5mm hole in there, and we've made a couple of things this morning on the lathe to help us get the other 2 holes in perspective. Let's have a quick look. So for our backing plates, we made these little locator pins. The idea is, locator pin goes in the hole, plate sits on top like that. Also made out of, as you see, from an old bolt, a transfer punch. So we line that up on there, pop that through the hole, give it a damn good hide on top of there, drill another 6.5mm hole in there, and pop that locator into it. Wash, repeat, or wash, rinse and repeat. Give that a good hide and drill it. Those 3 holes will be in the right position then. Right, let's crack on. Let's get this one drilled out. Right, so here's my setup. I've got to put a post in here because the table, this section of the table is not strong enough to take enough force to drill that hole, or any hole. So I put the bolt in to support the front end of the table. Right, let's get on with it. Quick spruce up, putting in there, putting in there, there go on. Got a little dimple in the end, and I flamed hardened this so that it'll give us a nice indentation. The beauty isn't having it all tied up together, so now can move. Put it on there, one good, damn good whack. There we are. Okay, back on the drill. Let's get the 3rd hole drilled. There's our 3 holes drilled. We now need a drill with a reduced shank in order we can fit it in that drilling machine. So our 5/8 drill turned up. The day after, we're going to drill the 3 holes get this through, eh? Right, 3 holes drilled. What we're going to do now is we need to make the bosses for the middle. We need to drill a 1/2 inch hole in the middle, turn a 1/2 inch spigot on the end of there so it'll sit in the 1/2 inch hole with the boss pushed around the shoulder. Get the whole lot welded up, get them dressed up to size and shape. Not a lot to do, eh? So, bit of fettling, a couple of hours spent with a file. We're getting them somewhere near. I did make myself a simple radius gauge. Just turned that end down, made a quick radius gauge for the put in and file to shape and size, so they're all near enough the same shape and size. Right, all that leaves me to do now, turn a couple of bosses once my steel turns up. So a bit of 1.5 inch steel turned up for the collars. I'll turn the collars for the pin. It's just these collars we need to turn. 100 mil of 1.5 inch was about £10.50. 200 mil was £11.90. 300 mil was nearly 20 quid. So obviously 200 mil is the optimum size to buy. It'd be nice to have a little bit of materials left lying around, wouldn't it, for other jobs to do. Right, so the other things we're getting done, we've transposed the position of the pin and the boss onto the plates. With the aid, I've lost me very expensive guide. I must have put it in the bin. Sheet of paper. Roll a sheet of paper up around the existing pins on the tractor in position, transposed it across, slid it across till it met up with the brackets, drew a simple line on, close enough for what we wanted it. So it's going to be another couple of days before we get on, because Debbie found us a little job to do. Let's have a look at this little job. So here's our little job. Dug out the old border, took out the walls. You cannot believe how much stone and slabs came out of a little decorative wall in there. So we've got all this right along to the end. Dug down to hit the clay, positioned the soil around the garden, put down to the sub base to the clay, where you've got sand coming on Wednesday, get it put into here. Thursday we've got a whacking plate coming. We'll whack all this in, put some levels in, get it all levelled off. Spend some time getting it done to make sure that the blocks is just going to go straight in on top without any issues, and then all them blocks are going down in here, so we'll end up in there path twice as wide. So that's what path finished. We've changed this, we're putting a ramp up there so we can come straight into a garage door with a lawnmower, straight up the ramp onto the lawn. Closed off the little step along there, got rid of the border in here because it was annoying. What we're going to do now is finish off putting sand and cement mix in along the edge there to stop the blocks creeping, and then put silver sand in. I think we can get back on with the tractor after the sand and cement job, which is probably tomorrow. So there we go, all finished but the welding. You see here I put a nice big rebate in the bottom of there, so we can fill that with weld. We're going to weld the collars to the base plates here, and that's we're done. That's my stabiliser brackets done. Same with that one, that's got, I've left a recess under there so we can get in, fill that with weld. They were push fits into the base plate. That one's nice and tight, that one's lit, it's a lovely fit, but it's just not tight, but it'll not matter, it will get the required support to the post that it needs. So I'm going to have a look around, see if I can get a MIG welder to weld these up with, see if I can find one reasonably cheaply. I know Lidl had them in for about 80 quid or so. I want to make a good job of the welds on these. For some reason my little inverter welder with the thin rods that I've got has been playing up lately. I haven't been getting nice clean welds out of them. I have with the big rods, but the big rods are a bit thick to get into that fillet in there. And I have spent a reasonable amount of time and effort doing those, so I don't want to spoil them by bodging up a load of weld on them. So we're going to end this video here. We're calling them done. I will get a nice welder and I will get them welded up and they will go on the tractor. I have had the base plates on the tractor already and they fit beautifully both sides. So it's a simple case of finishing the welds, slap a bit of paint on, get them on the tractor. Another job done, isn't it? I think the next job might be looking into that glow plug again, isn't it? It's sitting piped up but not in the manifold and it hasn't dripped at all. Yet you quite clearly saw on that video the last time when I pulled that out of the manifold, it was absolutely soaking wet. We'll have to have a look. You don't think it's pulling oil out of the oil bath air filter, do you? Pulling it right through the manifold system. We'll have to have a look and see. Right guys, we're going to end the video there. Thanks very much. As always, your time is greatly appreciated when you come visiting us, tinkering on, making little bits and pieces. Would like to also say a big thank you to Angus Fabrication and Welding from Ashington, who supplied the metal for us to make the back plates for those. Really big thank you. But remember, don't overthink it. It's only nuts and bolts. Catch us in the next one. Ta-ra now.